Welcome everyone to episode 103 of the You Can't Comp This NBA Trading Card Podcast. We're your hosts, Adam, Amy, and Russell Gibson.
G'day.
Brought to us by the good people down at EJ Cards. They don't have a trade day or anything this week or next week, do they? They're not really.
They just had one a few weeks ago.
They did. But
they are keeping our lights on, so I think we do have to talk about them and raise some attention to some of the stock they've got on sale at the moment. So
yeah, head on down, look at some cards, buy some goodies, dig through all the boxes they've got, which is that's the first thing I do is go in and just flick through all the rookie box,
They've got a heap of cards in those boxes, and they're definitely building them up. And recently, they've just put them in alphabetical order. So
we'll go and mess that up. I can go and trash that. That'll be.
I was actually a fan of the price one, so you could go right. I want some $1 cards, some 5s, some 10s, but at the same time, I do understand why, particularly if someone comes in and says, "Oh, have you got any Dyson Daniels?" And you go, "Okay, great. I'm going to go to D's and find them quickly." Like from a customer service point of view, like it's heaps better. But from an OCD perspective, this is not great, guys.
You realize that it doesn't take long to
revert them back.
They'll be sorted by price in no time, even if it's not intentional.
I'm not. That's very low key evil, isn't it?
I've never seen anything that's been alphabetized in a public setting like that, where people could flick through, just maintain. It just doesn't. It doesn't.
So I'm reading this off the website. Shop 394 to 398 Middleborough Road in Blackburn. Now, if that is the old address, which I think it is, do not worry because it's literally just 2 doors down you have to go. And there's a big sign on their old store to say...
That directs you.
So don't stress.
But it's like a treasure hunt.
It is a bit like a treasure hunt.
You go to the old address and it points you to the new address. Point you to a different address that points you to the new address. That'd be like the Amazing Race.
They currently have Pokemon 151 on pre-order. So, guys, if you're interested in Pokemon, getting your hands on this 151, it is a very hotly anticipated set. Keeping in the Pokemon vein, they have given us a box of Obsidian Flames to give away. I'm pretty sure I've said that right. I've got 2 boxes sitting there on my shelf. I'm pretty sure Plato Evolved is mine. So we'll be doing that as a giveaway. And then also to something else that caught my eye on their site is these Father's Day packs. I am a very big fan of these. They're selling them for 24 AUD, which I think is a massive price drop from the last couple of years. So
Father's Day was a week ago, so
yeah,
it's like a Boxing Day sale, I guess.
No, I doubt they would have dropped it because it's like after the fact. I think just in general, like stuff has come down. It's just a fun sort of time to be like buying at the moment.
So. You know what I was just thinking with the Pokemon box that we've got to give away.
Yeah.
Why don't we get the listeners to give us their like all-star starting lineup Pokemon wise, and with justifications. So we get voicemails in as to who they would have at each position and why.
Oh, you mean as like a basketball
Which
team?
Pokemon? Correct. Imagine Space Jam 3.
But with Pokemon.
Instead of the Looney Tunes.
Sure.
Team Rocket are going to make a team to take down, I don't know, Giannis and the Bucks or something. I don't know.
Do you mean Giannis?
Giannis. No, it's Giannis.
Okay.
Here we go. Team Rocket will recruit Luka.
Alrighty, let's quickly go through the run sheet. Hang on a second. I've got a little person in my room.
Oh, good. And while Russell's away, I'm going to start doing some research into Pokemon. Nope, we're back.
Sorry about that.
All good.
What I think what were we about to say? Let's
look at we're going to go into the run sheet. Sheet.
So this week's run sheet is looking a little bit like this. Juan Garcia.
Our lovely friend.
His name is out, so we don't need to tiptoe around that anymore. We can just say Cardporn and Juan Garcia. I want to talk about a Kobe Kaboom that I found. We'll talk about World Championships and then some product releases. So Spectra, Chronicles, and Mosaic. And Mosaic is a very soft spot for me, so I definitely want to talk about that. And then there was a social media post that we put up actually a couple of weeks ago. We didn't cover last week, so we'll quickly run through that. So let's just open up with Cardporn, man. Where are you sitting at with Cardporn?
Honestly, I've just seen it. It's sort of, there's been more talk happening. I haven't really, honestly. It's sort of like, I'm sure there'll be a write up once it's all resolved and things are in action.
So
it leaves me with a bad taste in my mouth. I'm just like, it's just, I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah,
I think we spoke about it last week, and as I said, like, as much as I joke around and say this is why I want the hobby regulated, this is legitimately why, like, people's trust has been sort of destroyed here, like, and taken advantage of.
Yeah, sure.
As a hobby, I think we've all sort of been, it's the dark side of the hobby, and I don't like it.
Yeah,
simple.
I think that's definitely a way that you could say it, and I think I would probably add to that too. It's maybe a part of the hobby that we all kind of know it's there, but you kind of hope that you're not involved in it, or you hope you sort of don't get dragged into it.
Yeah,
and I think so. Just holding that thought just for 2 seconds, it's amazing how many people he has touched. So Darren Rovell went on to Sports Cards Network, the boys from SCN, and he had a very limited amount of time, but he was very illuminating. And he spoke about a bunch of different things, but he spoke about how Juan did a break with Cherry.
Yeah.
He submitted more cards than people can actually imagine to PSA. So, who knows if you've got something that he's got on hand.
Oh, wow.
But this is like, for me, where really like the bomb dropped is that he's also involved in art and art restoration. And there's also some speculation that he sold, I'm going to say allegedly right now, some counterfeit Banksies. So,
wow.
And I think this is the thing that I want to talk about with you tonight, because I wanted to more talk about this from an issues perspective and maybe like just zone it out a little bit and sort of get involved in the nitty gritty so much. But this is, to me, the whole conversation about between art and cards and restoration and not to restore. We have people talking about, the things they do to cards before they send them off to PSA, and is it dodgy? And we've had this conversation on the podcast, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And it's, for me, when you think about this and then you think about Juan, that's when you can really say, well, actually, changing cards or manipulating them or making them, have a particular appearance.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a good place to actually use that as an example and say, look, this is actually where we draw the line. You can polish them. Let me rephrase that. You can use a lint-free cloth to polish them.
Yeah.
And then that's it, and you can send them off and they've been cleaned and that's it. And so I'm really interested to sort of see where this ends up, because it's amazing in a week how much has actually come out, because his name's out. Like, we've used his name, him by first name now. Like, we haven't tiptoed around that. And that's just 1 week that's happened. It's also been revealed that he's done stuff with Drake. He's done stuff with Goldens. He was purchasing 1986 product that wasn't the Fleer set, and then using that to repackage boxes. So basically taking all the good cards out, repacking them. And then so that's on Blowout and all this other stuff. But this piece of information came off the Sports Card Network, Sports Cards Nonsense podcast. He did a break with Goldens and kept the wrapper off the box. And that, to me, just like makes my skin like crawl,
It's it I don't know.
Did you hear the SCN podcast?
Bits of it, not like. Oh, yeah.
Did you hear what Jesse said, how he thinks he's like a psychopath because of the way he goes up to people and like does it, to their faces, like eats dinner with them and then like rips them off? Like,
yeah. It's just scary to think. I'll wait for the Netflix special.
I was going to say, you know how much I love true crime, right? This is in kind of some really sick way. This is like right up my alley. I'm also I'm not enjoying it. I shouldn't say that, but
no, but I know what you mean. Like, it's but it's, I don't know. I feel like the hobby has been violated. Not like, obviously people have been victimized and stuff with this, but I think the hobby as a whole has been tarnished.
Yeah, I do think that if you sent off a bunch of manipulated, changed, counterfeit cards to PSA, like that's for me where I feel like really uneasy, because the thing that I've really hung my hat on with PSA is that they would refund your money if it was a dodgy card.
Yeah.
But if they can't even tell if it's counterfeit or not, it's
scary, isn't it?
It's a real slippery slope, isn't it? And
Yeah.
how do you even know what you're buying? Look, I bought a pretty big card recently, and I'm not going to say the country I bought it from, but it wasn't from Australia. And I sent it immediately to PSA. And one of the reasons, like, I want to get it graded, don't get me wrong, but I also want to get it authenticated because
Yeah.
I want to
It's
know that
tough.
it's authentic.
Yep.
So, like, it's as simple as that. Like, authentication is important for some particular cards. And if that process or that, part is not there, it's really tricky, I think.
Very, very.
I don't want to crap on about this too much. I think there's so much
As I said,
content out there about it.
There's been so much coverage with it. As I said, it's really unveiled the dark side of the hobby, and I hope as a collective, like collectors and whatnot, we can move past it and onto the good side of things.
I think stains like Juan are 1 in a million.
Correct.
And you're going to meet 999,000, awesome people.
Yeah.
And so that's the way I'm trying to, really remind myself, because there's so many good people out there that are doing good things. And
yeah. Yep.
So let's not get sort of too down about it. But look, I'm just also grateful for someone like Darren, because that detective work that he did is just
you're right. You're right.
Alrighty, the next card is not really for you, but kind of for you. Kobe Kaboom. So this came off our friends from Card Ladder. They do
beautiful
tweets called Card Ladder Headlines.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do basically is they get cards that have just exploded recently. So there's a nice little link there for you to add.
Kaboom.
So
sorry.
This catches my attention for two reasons. Because of the card and also because of the player. And I think that there's always a card, say, one card per year, but maybe in this case with Kabooms, actually these are going to be, the cards that, that we actually look back on from this maybe even generation that are really important. And the thing I want to pose to you is, are cards like this just grossly undervalued? And that spike that we've seen
is this a market correction?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. Because I mean, the market can correct in two ways, right? Like it's not always, the bottom's fallen out of the market because people have realized that base cards are plentiful and they're not as rare, and they're not rare, so the prices plummet.
Yeah.
Whereas Kabooms are rare as hen's teeth. The opposite happens. People are like, oh, I want one of those.
Yeah.
And the more people that say I want one of those, the more the demand increases. Well, they don't just say they want it; they actually make the purchase. But the more the card is in demand, then the obviously it drives the price up. So,
I think that the twist on this though is that even at the price before it had a significant jump, it was still $1,000. So we're not talking, we're not speculating.
No, we're not talking about an
couple
SP.
Of bucks.
Yeah, it's not a short print or anything. It's a pretty, yeah.
I think that where my thoughts were going with all this is, and we've talked about this on previous shows, like I'm pretty sure we spoke about an Anthony Davis Kaboom that was going for like $100.
Yep.
I'm going to stand by that type of purchase because I think those cards have that real potential to just trickle up over time and maybe even see spikes like that. And I'm going to segue forward into the show, but I would say one of the big errors that I've made when I was buying up cards that I thought would explode in the future were the Jam Masters. So I really thought that they were going to be similar to the Donruss Marvel cards, where they were just going to like become sort of a cultural phenomenon. But obviously no one likes NBA Jam as much as I do. So
I still love NBA Jam. I just don't know about the card world.
The Jam Master cards, the first ones were amazing. Anyway, so look, I think, guys, spend this week and go through some Kabooms, go through some sold prices on Card Ladder, use 130 point. That's also a good way to filter through some sales.
Yeah, yep.
And then start looking, to put one into your collection. So I think this is the type of card that goes onto your list, and then eventually, one day you'll get one. You'll see the right price, one will fall into your lap. I think these are the type of cards that you need to, be chasing, basically. So
Yep.
All right, world champs. Germany knocked out the US, which was an absolutely dynamite game. I've been on the record saying I've watched very little, if none, of the world championships, but this is You have to see this game. It is just amazing. Really, really good game. You could even watch it twice, to be honest. It was.
Speaking of the FIBA World Cup,
Talk to me.
we're actually in overtime in the
So it's
playoff
the
for
USA
third.
Canada game. Yeah,
The playoff for third, and Canada's up by 9 points
yeah, right.
with 40 seconds remaining. So
I was looking. So USA is going to get entrance into the next Olympics already.
yeah,
I actually think they send. I was looking back at their track record through the World Championships. They traditionally don't do well. It's almost like they send their
the
future
B team.
generations team. I don't think it is their B team.
It's not a B team.
I think they're looking at people to put into the next team. So like Paolo Banchero, Tyrese Halliburton. I reckon for me, they're the two guys. Anthony Edwards.
yeah.
They'll be at the next Olympics. That's what I'm sort of taking out of this. And Serbia knocked out Canada. And I think that was the other big one because I think there was a lot of heat, going around Canada. Maybe they were going to win the gold medal.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was very happy to see Dylan Brooks get put onto his bike. I'm not going to lie to you. Any big takeaways from the World Championships in terms of player-wise that you want to talk about? I've made a small list.
Not overly.
You can add anything that you want to it.
It's funny. It's funny in the World Championships that it's not necessarily the superstars that do stuff. Like I will say the that Luka obviously is a huge impact on how his team performs. Right.
Yeah.
There are those situations where it'll go as far as the star player will take them. But once they've got role players, the Boomers are made up of NBA role players.
Yeah.
Right. And Josh Giddey, who I don't think is really a role player. I actually think Giddey will be up in that top tier eventually.
I don't think he's a dynamite scorer though, and I think that's
his area of improvement for sure. Yeah.
I think that's the problem for him, sort of in that space. I still view him as a role player, to be honest. He's a very, very good role player, but
but I mean, he's not one of these. He doesn't come off the bench, is what I mean. He's not a bench player.
Definitely not.
He's in the spotlight more than most, so you recognize the name. But there are a lot of players that are just role players, and they're low stats in the NBA. They're not prominent, but when it comes to then playing for their national side, you just see the way that some of them, a lot of them have been playing together as a unit for years.
Yeah,
and you saw that with Spain. Like the Gasol brothers are amazing, but Spain was just a tight unit because they play so much basketball together.
Yeah, so I think this year's
as
example
a national
of that
team,
is Serbia, right? Because if you actually run down through that roster, there's not that many standout names there at all, but they've been together for a really long period of time.
Correct. And they've got the almost joker in Nikola Jovic.
Yeah, that was actually the one I was just about to say. I think he's the obvious sort of standout there. And then Bogdan Bogdanovic too for the Hawks. He's he's a legitimate player.
But you've got that. It's the core. It's the foundation of the team. That I think is where these performances come from. Not so much the NBA superstars that are involved.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So holding on to that vein, the German coach, his full-time job is just coaching Team Germany.
Yep.
And if you look at his resume, he's literally like a journeyman coach. He propositioned the German players from that team to commit to the World Championships, the Olympics, and there was some other World Cup or something like that. And for the exact reason you just talked about then, just like building, team continuity, set plays. They just know where everyone's going to be at all time.
Yep.
So Schroder and Theis apparently have played together for nearly 12 years though. Like those two have played together like through junior. So they're like, peas in the pod.
Yeah.
The other thing about the coach from Germany that I really like, I love those people who are just lifers at their job, like the sushi chef who's working in some, dingy Japanese restaurant, and you go there and have this meal and you just like, this is the greatest sushi I've ever had. Like, I think that guy out coaching and beating that Team USA team, like that has to be one of the highlights of his life. And watching somebody serve up something like that, like you have to, like he coached really well, I
Agreed.
do love a good coaching performance when I see one, and that was you got to tip your hat to the dude. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
um,
agree.
so the 4 players that I want to talk about is SGA, Luka, Anthony Edwards, and Schroder. I think for me, they're the ones that are
That's
worth
a standout.
discussing and
Yeah.
speculating going forward. So my thought with SGA is that he's always been talented, but I've never really known. Do you put money into this guy, or do you just let it play out and then
That's
let
a
someone
tricky
else
one.
pick up the bag, right?
Yeah.
So I always honestly felt he was maybe a little bit overpriced just
Yep.
because of he wasn't getting a lot of opportunity, initially with the Clippers. Obviously, Chris Paul was there, and then the whole situation with Oklahoma was a little bit, they're holding him out. He wasn't playing full seasons, and frankly, even when he was playing games, I never felt like he was really going 100%. So I was never
Yeah.
really that sure on it. But his playing the Olympics has been, just tremendous, and I do get the feeling that the Thunder are going to be significant in the NBA the next couple of years.
Yeah. They're definitely a team to be watching as far as they're going to rise.
Yeah.
It's
The
yeah.
only thing that gives me a slight pause with SGA is that he's a little bit older than what the rest of the core is going to be. So
Mm.
do they move off from that asset to sort of let that core sort of grow together, or do you just take that risk and say,
Nah,
well,
you make him the leader, don't you? He's the veteran. He's the
look, I'm really pulling at, tiny, tiny strings here, but that's the only thing that if he was traded for a younger asset, I wouldn't be shocked. Do you know what
Wouldn't
I
be
mean?
shocked. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. But I don't know. He's a good. I think he fits. He fits in what they're trying to build. So
Totally, yeah, with the size, the
yeah,
length, all that stuff,
yeah.
like definitely, and the skill level, obviously.
And it's not
So
just Team USA. I will say that has these after a world championship. It has their NBA play is affected in a positive way. So might be wanting to watch OKC early in the season because
so
yeah,
he was all NBA first team last season, and
yep.
yet somehow his price for a silver PSA 10 is 482 USD.
Why do you think it is? Is it OKC just not being successful, or is it something wrong with him? Is he one dimensional? Is it?
Well, my assessment on that is just basically they're not on national TV enough.
Mm,
That's going to change next year. They're on national TV a lot more.
yeah.
And then it's just that whole league passing. Like we've spoken about this before, like not that many people, deep dive into league pass. So
Do you know what's
if you
really
don't,
funny about that? League Pass for those that have been well, I guess the time had already passed, but there is a special edition of NBA 2K24 where you spend, I think it's the $240 version of the game, and you get the game and you get all the extra add-ons and the virtual stuff and a league pass.
the premium one or just like the
Yeah,
regular,
you get.
if
I think yeah, but it's you get a league pass with the highest tiered.
this is an unpaid advertisement, by the way, but that actually sounds like pretty good value.
It is. It is. I just want to play more people on 2K.
So let's direct comp SGA to Luka. Luka's currently sitting at 1,658. So
Can I make my comment now about the comp on those two?
yeah, go.
They've got very similar accolades. I believe they're both at 0 MVPs. Anyway, I'm not going to start on the Luka hate already.
No, it's
SGA.
fine. No, but if SGA's making All NBA first team and then
Yeah. I was going to say they've all this performance and they've done nothing in the playoffs, either of them. That's because OKC haven't made the playoffs, so that's fine. But it's just throwing shade at Luka because I can have to do it once every week.
look, I've actually really enjoyed this exercise of comping these two, just because it's really actually given me a lot to thought. Like that's a $1,200 difference, and look, you can make the argument Luka's a little bit overpriced at the moment. And you can also at the same time say, well, probably SGA's up a little under.
He's come up a
You'll
little
think-
bit, but I think he's actually getting some recognition, which is a good
yeah.
thing. SGA for sure.
Look,
For
I'm going
sure.
to put that down as a buy. I don't feel bad about this. I think with his All NBA, really good showing now. They're going to be on national TV more this year. I'm totally fine with this.
Yep.
I, you know, Like, it's a lot of money. I'm not saying it's,
No.
it's not pocket change, but at the same time, I think that's a really good buy.
Like,
So,
but that's the thing. We're looking at Luka and we're looking at SGA. As I said, and I look, it was a bit of shade at Luka, obviously, with the accolade side of it. But what's the comp on Luka? Like, look at Luka.
I think, look, as we're sitting right now, I think what my current analysis is correct. I think if we have this conversation in 20 years, I think if we took this soundbite, it'll probably sound pretty foolish.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now is now, and I'm happy to sort of say that, yeah. The next one's Anthony Edwards. This is sitting at 710 USD. Now, this is an interesting one because when they came out in the draft, definitely there was some hobby love for the guy, but let's be honest, a lot of it went to LaMelo.
Yep.
Actually, that narrative has completely flipped. So LaMelo is currently sitting at 550, and Edwards is sitting at 710. Edwards has actually had a bit of a upward tick recently, and I really put that down to him just basically, playing really well at the Olympics, and there was a lot of narrative around him about being the go-to guy, and the team happy with him taking the number of shots that he took, which is interesting for a Team USA roster. Look, I'm a little bit sheepish on this at 700 just for the fact that I think there's going to be a fair bit of turmoil for the Wolves next year because either they're going to be bad or they're going to trade one of the two big guys, which I think will potentially have some unrest there. I'm not very optimistic about that Wolves roster, how it's currently constructed.
Yeah, for sure.
Mike Conley's old. There is sort of this version where it does go quite badly. So that makes me a little bit hesitant at that 710 mark.
Yep.
In the short term, in the long term, I actually really like this. You might even say, actually, this is a good buy at 710 because, I've been on the record how much I love this guy already. I think the athleticism is there. I think that the three-point shooting is there. And if he's playing for Team USA and the guys love him, that's the type of stuff that, that really makes my ears sort of perk up. It's like the Halliburton stuff. I'm like, I'm loving everything I'm hearing about Halliburton at the moment, so.
Yeah, and you're sort of seeing it happen, like as he sort of,
So the last one is a little bit of a poke, but at the same time, I think this one's super fun. So Dennis Schroder. He's silver.
You know what I'm impressed with? That you actually found a comp for it.
Actually, it was harder than what you'd think.
Yeah.
So it last sold for $18.50. Of all the cards that I've spoken about today, this is the one that I'm the highest on. I love this. And look, maybe that's because of the price range that I spend in, but that to me is just like, that's ridiculous. That's way underpriced.
Last sold date, November 2022.
Yeah.
Card ladder values it at $32.09.
So that's very interesting that you say that. So Card Ladder have this undervalued at 73% undervalue. And they pretty much always say like, neutral value. One more thing about this card. Look at the all-time high on this. This sold for $800. Can you imagine the high that person had when they sold it for $800? It would have been like if you got a job promotion at work that you'd been trying so hard for, and your wife
selling that for $800 is giving someone a $10 note,
and you're high on crack all at the same time. That's what you would have felt like when you
go up. You go and buy your coffee. You give them a $10 note. They give you your coffee and change of $500.
Oh my
it's just like, what is this?
Who bought that for $800? If you're listening to the show, can you please write in? That is ridiculous.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Final thoughts?
It'll be interesting to see what the FIBA experience does to these NBA bodies. And it's not necessarily the ones in the spotlight that I'm mainly concerned about. It's the ones that it's their first world championship. It's the first time they've got to represent their country. And it's always interesting with Team USA. I feel like you see a step up as far as it's like a special type of all-star weekend, right?
Yeah.
Where they actually get to play serious games. And I think that benefits more than just hanging out with a bunch of elite athletes over All-Star weekend and kicking it and having a good time. This is different coach, different system. Like we're going into the national team and the goal is to win. So I feel like it develops them. It adds to their overall ability as players. So I'm excited to see how it translates.
That's
some of
the
these.
Bill Simmons theory, what you just described. Then he's
Yeah.
like, it's basically like this basketball school that they go to, and they get to hang out with all the other elite athletes and the high performance thinkers, and then they just get to add it to their toolbox, you know?
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's the difference between All-Star Weekend. All-Star Weekend is let's have some fun, let's put on a show. The World Championship is we're representing the country, let's get to work.
Yeah.
And even though it looks like they didn't even get a medal this year, I think Canada has just defeated them.
Do you want to touch on that though as a thing? I don't have a problem with them not medaling.
I think America's going to be the only one that has a problem with it.
Yeah,
but they've got a giant chip on their shoulder because
totally.
It was wasn't that long ago that the Redeem Team the documentary came out. The Kobe Bryant led Redeem Team because of the failures in Olympics.
Yeah, but so I think you do have to separate the world champs from the Olympics because clearly this is their their youth team. But that German
this will be the team this will be the core of the team that goes to the Olympics for the US, I believe.
Yeah, and they'll add some like really good veterans to it,
Yeah.
But there's nothing. I don't actually think there's any shame. Can I be honest with you? If they had lost to Latvia, I wouldn't have been surprised with that. That Latvian team was pretty good, right?
Yeah. But it's
Germany was good. Canada was good. Serbia is excellent. Like what are we talking about here?
It's really nice to see some high level basketball on the international stage, and other teams doing well, other countries doing well, showing how truly international the game is.
Yeah, and I think this is probably where we can give a bit more of an unbiased opinion on this, as opposed to the American media who thinks that the Americans should win every single time. Like, I think, do you know what I mean? We can actually sort of sit back and say these teams are actually better than the Americans, and that's okay. Like,
yeah, for sure.
So this is something that we haven't done a lot of, but I want to do it, but we always just take it off the run sheet because there's other things to talk about. So this is the perfect opportunity for us. So we're going to talk about Spectra. We're going to talk about Mosaic, which is a personal favorite of mine, bit of a dirty secret, you could say, and Chronicles, which
we're not secret about it. You love Mosaic. Everyone knows you love Mosaic.
I do love Mosaic. It's still a dirty secret. And then we'll finish off with that little variance post. So let's talk about Spectra. So my theory on Spectra is that basically, if you can't afford national treasures and you can't afford flawless, this is where you start to look at other products that aren't as low end, but not as high end as those two others that we mentioned. And I'm saying this in the nicest, kindest possible way. I'm not, believe me, this is not like, oh, you can't afford national treasures. No, you're spending in your price point than you can afford. And that's right? Yeah. So the other, places you can look at in this price point too is Noir. That's something else you can look at. You could almost argue you're looking at Court Kings. You could buy a couple of hobby boxes of that, or maybe a couple of blasters and sort of put that together and bust that instead of, one box of Spectra. But I think the real difference between Spectra and a couple of other products is the case hit. So they've got the Color Blast, and they've also got Logoman in them the last, don't quote me on this, 2 years or definitely last year. That's when Logoman started. And that is significant because if you can get a Logoman at a price that you can afford that isn't flawless and isn't national treasures, like it's still a very meaningful card. So, look, it's a very popular product. I'm very interested to see how it goes this year because the color palette isn't what I would call user friendly. The best way
I like that. I do like the
best way I'd describe it is, did you ever go to Macca's in the 80s when they had all those neon lights up? It really reminds me of that. So
Yeah.
The
I
guys
thought you were
before.
going different. I was going to say, do you remember the old styrofoam containers that the burgers came in and how they're all different colors? But
Oh man, how many dolphins did we kill with those things?
that's
Really.
it. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. But yes,
So
it's,
before you jump into breaks or you do Ripper Box, just go online and watch a break first because look, some of it's awesome and some of
yeah.
it is very like an acquired taste, and you might really enjoy it. Like
Mm,
I love those neon greens out of Select. You know,
yep.
I'm sure other people want to throw them in the rubbish, but it's a
I know what you
very
mean. I know.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
an acquired
Yeah.
taste. So
I don't know. I'm always 50-50 on Spectra. Like I used to go in breaks with Spectra, but it's not on my radar as much these days.
why is that?
I don't know. It's just that it does it feels like because I mean it's a good thing, but it feels like an in between set where it's not sure if it's what end of the spectrum it is. Funnily enough,
It's 100% an in between, and
yep.
actually, I'm
It
certain it's designed as that.
I feel like they've doubled down. They've doubled down on because at one point it felt like the low end of the high end, if that makes sense.
Definitely, yeah. Or you can
And
say the high end of the low end.
yeah, yeah, and then it sort of it really sort of it tried to take a step into both worlds, and I don't know, I struggle with that sometimes.
Yeah. Look, I think this is Panini's genius in that they cater for everyone's price point.
Yep.
So there's a bunch of people that love jumping into this. Look, there's a few hits in each box too. You get 4 autos per
Yeah.
box.
Yep.
Like it's actually quite nice to break. So
Yeah.
look, I think the one to talk about that was a color blast, and I'm not going to read through the whole list, but there is some really interesting things that I actually need to get out my spreadsheet to work this out. So OKC actually has 3. They've got Chet, SGA, and Jalen Williams, and this is actually this is
So
fantastic.
Jalen Williams is a weird one for me. I just like as a selection, but yeah, I guess.
I would say that he's the lowest prospect of everybody,
Mm.
but I would also say too that he was explosive last year, the way that he finished the
Yeah.
season, and so
Yeah.
maybe that's what they're betting on, right?
Yep.
What I was going to say about Jalen Williams, there's actually 2 Jalen Williams on OKC. So if you need to remember which is the crap one and which is the good one is the one that ends with EN, and he's got the color blast. So there you go.
There you go. Pro tip.
That's going to help me remember because I'm always like, oh, is that the good one or is that the do I get this card or not?
But it's an interesting list. I'm looking through it. It's
2 teams have got 2. The
Mhm.
Mavs have got Doncic and Kyrie. 76ers have got Harden and Embiid.
Mhm.
And then there's 10 teams that have none. Bulls, Clippers, Heat, Knicks, Suns, Spurs, Raptors, Jazz, Wizards. I'm not a fan.
Wow.
I'm not a fan of that. And so what they did this year with Court Kings, the Blasters with the blank
Yep.
slates, every team
Mhm.
had one. And
Okay. Yeah. I can see that.
that's awesome. Like
Yeah.
particularly if you're
Yeah.
going in breaks, that means every
You're
team
still
you
in the
buy.
running. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a fan of that at all, particularly when you've got 3 teams that have got multiple. So on the flip side of that, if you're looking at break spots, do you double down on Mavs, 76ers, OKC, and then you say, right, now I've got 7 chances at a color blast.
That's true.
It's actually pretty delicious if you say it like that.
Yeah.
I should.
Well, it depends on the value. It depends on the. It does depend on the price points for the breaks, though.
I'm going to timestamp this for the social media.
Yep. Pro tip.
What were you saying about it depends on what? Sorry.
Well, you look at it and you go, OKC's got 3, but OKC because of that, because of their high draft picks, they have been going like it's not the cheapest price point to get into the break.
Definitely not.
But God,
Still cheaper than
it
Magic.
does. It's tempting though, isn't it, to go
Yeah, 3.
to go? Geez, is OKC undervalued as far as a break price point because of the color blast?
Definitely.
Yep.
In
It's
a
interesting.
hypothetical world,
Yeah.
if you could have any color blast from this list, which one would you take?
If I could have any of these color blasts,
Yeah. Mr. Panini sends you an email and be like, hey, which one do you want?
whoa, I'm not looking through. Like the obvious choice for me is LeBron. But I would probably I might take the Giannis actually.
Yeah.
Yep. Be yourself.
I'm tossing up between Steph Curry and Keegan Murray.
It's funny that they rhyme.
That is very funny. I'll probably go the Steph just because in this hypothetical world, I reckon the Keegan Murray would be cheaper than the Steph, so then I could go out and pick up the Keegan.
I'd also have a vote for Ja Morant because it looks like if he was using a paint gun, the color blast. Anyway,
that is harsh, but so appropriate.
Yeah, I know. It's just weird, right? Oh god.
Final thoughts on Spectra?
Yeah, interesting set. It always delivers something, I guess. Yeah.
It's got a pretty decent vet autograph list in it this year too. I think that's the other thing they've done pretty well. Actually, in older sets, that seems to be a bit of a recurring theme.
Yep. Yeah,
I think they're
sure.
getting better at taking out those sort of potato autographs that you do get from time to time and putting in sort of more, interesting people. And I've actually earmarked a couple on the next little rundown to chat about some interesting vets in there. Alrighty, Mosaic. So Mosaic was originally a spin-off from Prizm. So you can say this is almost like a Chronicles of Prizm or, the poor brother of Prizm, or something like that. But originally when it came out, it was just, all it was parallels. It was like sort of a big choice box.
Yeah. Okay.
Then they turned it into a hobby box and then started putting in base cards and inserts. And then they put retail with it. And actually for me, that's when it got a little bit interesting because I really feel like they've used Mosaic to almost experiment on and just do crazy things with inserts. Like some of the inserts in Mosaic, you need to actually look at them. They're just wild. Like they just do these ridiculous things. And look, some of them are hits and some of them are absolute misses and, never sort of get any traction and never play out. Yeah. So there's a new insert this year. It's called Notoriety. And I think that's worth checking out. I'm not saying go out and stock them up because they're going to be turned into a heap of cash. Definitely not, but they're just a really nice looking card. My other takeaway from this year too is I think they've really channeled their inner cornerstones and the pattern design on that. I almost feel like they've peeled off or pressed onto the Mosaic card, the cornerstone sort of logo. So, which is interesting because Panini was recently sued for basically just lifting a design off somebody else, and they had to pay out $20 or $25 million. So,
jeez,
maybe that's something that they do. They sort of just reuse patterns and they reuse designs for for different cards. But look, I think at this time when the heat has really come off the market and cards aren't selling that well, it's really interesting to me to see how well Mosaic autographs are currently selling at the moment. Like a lot of them are doing at least $100 as sort of a starting point. And I don't, my sort of gut feeling.
Are they sticker as well? I'm sorry, I always ask with these. Yeah.
Stickers. Yeah, mostly stickers.
Okay.
Let me rephrase that.
No, I'm not getting
I think some are going to be on card, but I've not seen any on card, but I would assume some is going to be.
I didn't even cover that with Spectra though. Spectra's
a mix too.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a mix. You find that in the mid range, I guess, as far as price points go.
Well, even NT was right.
Yeah, true. It's true. You're right. That has nothing to do with it then.
So yeah, the only thing I say too about Mosaic is just be a little bit buyer beware at the moment because I'm very reluctant to think that pricing will hold up.
Yep.
So, because I've been looking at some Darren Fox, just like some some veteran autos.
Sure.
It's silly. So I think honestly, just wait a couple of months and just keep queuing them up in your eBay list. Keep bidding on them, but just bid what you feel comfortable with, and one will come up. It's I think at the moment a little bit sort of weird for me. Okay. Jam Masters is back though, so do check out those. Just don't overbuy.
I'm going to try and catch Russell out with the nostalgia factor.
So, have you been into any Mosaic breaks, Ed?
No. I'm off breaks at the moment, but I was actually looking. I was going to make a cheeky purchase of a box, and I'm holding for now.
Yeah.
But it's like now that the price points have changed, I'm like, oh, do I just want to rip something for the hell of ripping it?
So that's actually what I was about to touch on because I actually keep a spreadsheet with my spending in it. So I've gone back the last couple of years to see the price changing in Mosaic breaks is dramatic.
Yeah.
It's gone down by almost 50% in like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just really enjoyable at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's nice to be able to go, oh, I want to buy some product, and there is product to buy.
Yeah. I think maybe the big one for me too is, and I even say this about going to breaks, not that I particularly sit there and, stress through a break, but, if you spend like a significant amount of money, you do want to get something back for it. Whereas I feel like that pressure is lifted a little bit. It's not the same, so. Chronicles. How, in one sentence, how would you describe Chronicles?
Kaleidoscope.
Meaning?
Bit of everything. Just like a mixture. Yeah. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a Kaleidoscopes card now. That's why I want to just check your meaning.
Is there really? Is there really? Is it in Chronicles?
It's in Select, isn't it?
Oh, damn it. They really missed the boat on that. They could have just... Anyway. That's why Fanatics are taking over.
Yeah, so as a one sentence, I had this down as a compilation product. So it takes all these different products that basically didn't make it, and then they've just put it into one. So if you want some toilet time reading, find the checklist for Chronicles.
Chronicles, yeah.
It is absolutely ridiculous. It must be 100 pages, honestly.
It's crazy. Well, when saying that Jam Masters is back, I'm like, why didn't they just put it in Chronicles?
That means they have to get rid of Mosaic, though, because that's basically what they do. They sort of
once the set goes away. Okay, I thought they just took it out of the rotation of insert sets, and they go, oh, this is no longer in, so we can put it in Chronicles.
Yeah, so it's more like if they kill the setup. So, for example, Gold Standard is in
Gold Standard, yeah. That makes me sad.
Yeah, so
I used to like Gold Standard.
Right. Okay. And I think that's actually where this product holds people's interest. So for me, the soft spot is Cornerstones. I love Cornerstones. I can take it or leave it Gold Standard, but clearly you'd be in Chronicles for a bit of Gold Standard. And I actually think that's where they get people's interest.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the other thing too, though, is just how many rookies is in there. It's very rookie heavy through all the sets. So
yeah,
you do get the feeling, or you could also say misinterpretation of value, because there's so many rookie cards in there. Yeah.
True. Look, I don't know. I'm looking at these things and I'm like, oh, there's some interesting stuff in this one.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, definitely one to look at is Cornerstones. I love those cards. There was just something about them. They were so ugly. They were just beautiful.
I like the Gold Standard stuff, obviously. Yeah. If there was Black Gold in there, that would be cool, because that's another set that was only around for a little bit.
I'll just quickly do a search on the list. I don't believe that they've brought that back.
They haven't. They haven't. I said that would be cool if they did it.
No Black Gold. Sorry, boss.
Oh, well.
Now, the other thing that's worth talking about this too is the Donruss, the Prizm, and the Donruss Optic checklist.
These are the complementary. When you said a compilation set, it's also it's like a top up to all of these other base sets.
Yeah.
The completionist in me is having convulsions right now, like internally.
Yeah. So another way to say that is, remember in the 90s where they had like Series 1 and Series 2?
Yeah. Okay.
That's the other way to look at it too, because if you look at the Prizm update cards, Kevin Durant in a Phoenix uniform, Kyrie in a Dallas, D'Angelo Russell with the Lakers, Westbrook with the Clippers. What they do too is they capture people that they miss. So if you look at the Donruss checklist, there's no one there that really catches your eye except for Mac McClung. So he was the young man that won the dunk competition.
Yeah.
He's actually signed on with a roster this year, so he'll be in the NBA. So
nice.
If you're looking for someone to prospect on out of Chronicles, the card that I would be buying is Silver Mac McClung's.
Interesting.
I really like those. Yeah. There's something about those that just quite speak to me.
Oh look, I'm looking at I'm right down on the run sheet. I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, we've got a card in Chronicles in the old school autographs. Luke Longley's there.
Yeah. So that was the next thing I want to talk about. Yep. So I think we need to give credit when credit's due. So I wasn't going to read out the whole checklist, but definitely have a look at the old school autographs checklist. The ones that really took my eye was Longley, as you said,
Yep.
which is an interesting one because he's not someone who's particularly been around the hobby space that much. Like, there's not a heap of Longley stuff out there, but you think about the last 2 years, what he's been doing. He's come back into the public eye.
Yep.
He's been seen around basketball games. So he's been with, the Perth Wildcats. If I'm not mistaken, he's been around the Australian team a little bit too.
Yes.
He's been on TV doing interviews.
Mm-hmm.
He's even spoken about Jordan, which is something that he previously had refused to discuss, So I wonder if he's coming back into the public eye and, this is sort of part of that, evolution for him. So look, I'm really happy for it. I think there is a space out there for collectors, obviously for 2 reasons. He was part of a 3-peat team. There's going to be
that's right, yeah,
people that appreciate that, and obviously there's a huge. Well, let me rephrase that.
Locally, there's quite a large market of Australian collectors.
Right, small to medium sized, globally, but large in Australia.
Well, we see a lot of it, right? I do. I've got friends that collect Aussie players only. So Luke Longley is on that chase list. So
as he should be.
Yeah, and look, he has signed in the past as well. So I believe the Luke Longley on-card auto has already been ticked off a couple of people's checklists as far as.
I doubt there's that many of them floating around.
There's not
right?
many. Yeah. It's one of those, pick it up when you can.
And what I was saying before about as it should be, you could make a very strong argument he's the greatest Australian basketball player ever.
Yeah. Yeah. He's up. He's definitely up there. He's also he's a pioneer.
Who's greater?
He's a pioneer.
Are you going to say Ben Simmons?
Bogut.
How many championships did Bogut get?
Was it 1 or 2? It was a couple. Was it? I don't know. How many was we? Because he got all his success with Golden State, but I can't even remember.
Sure.
But he was also wasn't he drafted number 1 overall?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So which is one higher than.
I'd accept that as.
I wouldn't say Ben Simmons.
God. He might be the best dressed Australian. That's about all. And so the other one that caught my eye too was John Starks.
Yeah.
I think that's my era. I think I'm just showing my age now, but everyone remembers that dunk he did on the Bulls and the battles that he was with, with Pat Riley and Charles Oakley, Pat Ewing. Like that was awesome.
He was in the golden age of basketball, right?
Yeah.
Where's the Andrew Gaze one in the old school checklists?
I think the cup of tea that he had with the Spurs and the Wizards.
No.
Actually, I can't believe I'm saying this. So Topps made an NBL set and they made this Legends checklist. The Andrew Gaze card and the Darryl McDonald card is like,
this is the top set that came out this year, was it?
And I have no interest. Yeah. I have no interest in this product at all, but those cards are actually amazing.
D-Mac and Andrew Gaze.
Final thoughts on Chronicles, Ed?
I don't know, maybe I'll pick up some Chronicles. I get tempted every now and then. I just get tempted.
Of all the products that we've chatted about tonight, is this the one you're leaning towards the most?
If I had to pick up a box, I'm tempted more by Mosaic, but I think I'd be more likely to buy Chronicles because of my nostalgia factors. Interesting.
Yeah, fair. So just to be devil's advocate, I would say look at the checklist and then work out the probability of you hitting gold standard. You might actually be better off just saving that money from a box and just buying like a gold
standard card.
No, seriously, just like save your tears, honestly. Because no, if you look at
it's true. It's true.
Checklist is ridiculous, man.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by the kaleidoscope. You don't know what you're getting.
I don't want to be some like angry white guy, swearing on a podcast, but that is fucking ridiculous. Like it's just like,
I wonder if Chronicles is just where they were sweeping the floor and picked up all the cards and just randomly distributed extra shit.
Just put them into boxes,
Yeah. God.
All right, let's do this this last segment on variants. I'm pretty sure we haven't talked about this. Just correct me if I'm wrong, but
no. I saw it. I saw the post. We did the show on the day the post went up, and So we hadn't done it yet.
So variant cards come in not just one product, and essentially what a variant card is I don't know how to say this in like simple terms. So if you've got your standard rookie card, then they make another one, but they
Mm-hmm.
just don't make as many of them, and they have a different picture on them.
Yep.
So for me, the reason I like these is because there's less of them, and for some strange reason, they don't seem particularly heavily collected. So the way I look at this, or I break this out of my mind, I actually think this is just a small pocket of value that, might become more valuable in the future. So this is the one that I've got on show here is from Mosaic. They've made it easy for us this year because it's got a V on the back.
Is Mosaic the only set that does that?
So the V on the back?
Yeah.
Well, they've only just started doing that this year too, or maybe last year, because in previous sets they didn't. So you actually had to recognize, and if you only got one variant per box, sometimes you had to go back through the cards that you had and then try and, go onto eBay and like work out like which one. If you didn't know the set that well, which if it's a brand new set, you might not know all the pictures.
Yeah.
In Prizm this year, what they did to make it easier for us though is they put it east-west. So that's easy. Yeah. Anyway, we had some
nice submissions here. I've just got the post up. Yeah.
Yeah. So Andrew Shooter Hewitt, thank you so much, mate. He's actually submitted the variants on the contenders, the playoff tickets. I know that the East-West cards don't sell as well, but look at that. It just sits perfectly with the autograph.
Now there's one that's, if it's a pair, but
Is that too much for your OCD? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about it. Conflicted. I do like it, actually. I think it's yep. And James Mann has asked exactly the same question I was going to. Does a variant has to have the V symbol? No, it doesn't.
It depends on the set.
Well, I've got the LaMelo rookie variant because sometimes there's a slightly different picture or
yeah.
No, it won't have the V on it.
So there's a couple of cards in the submission here that probably don't quite fit the criteria of what we're talking about. But I'll just say, lads, thank you so much for submitting the cards, because even if it doesn't perfectly match it, I'm always happy to look at cards. Like, it's totally fine, The next one down is from Dane Neville. So he's absolutely nailed this. And that's the variant card there. Actually, this one is an interesting one. So this is NBA Hoops, and they made this additional set. It was called Premium Stock. And this was during the time when there was such a demand for cards. They were literally just like, they basically just made up a new set and put it onto like optic cardboard and then just printed it out and people bought it. This was actually like a low-key good set because the price was quite low. The card quality was quite good. But now you sort of look back, 2 years in time, there's nothing in there that's been a good investment, if you know what I mean. It's,
Yeah.
Do you want to do the next one of Dane's?
So, and then there's finally, what is it, Clearly? The Ja Morants. We've got it's just a different rookie card. I actually don't know which one I prefer.
So I'm pretty sure the standard one is the one with him dribbling the ball in his right hand.
The variant's the one of him holding the ball. Yeah.
Interesting thing about this, something happened, I think, when they were producing and manufacturing this set, because if you get one of these cards that doesn't have a surface scratch on it, you probably should send it to PSA because...
Oh, really? That was scuffed and...
The number of these cards that come back as PSA... Look, I don't have the exact stats behind me, but I would say that the pop count on 10s would be very, very, very low.
Yep.
And then Dane again. So Dane, you've nailed this. Should we send Dane a little prize?
Yeah, probably worth it.
And then that's our last little prize to give away, and then
on to the next round of prizes.
We're on to our big one for Pokemon, which we probably should.
Sorry, we'll get the listener email, the voicemails in. I want to hear.
You want to do that? All right, great.
Pokemon Monstars.
All right, fine. Let's do it.
Space Jam 3.
Yep. So I just saw in the comments from Anthony Mild, can we do a live question?
Sure.
Can we do an RJ Barrett card ladder comp?
Let's do it.
And to be fair, he'd been playing pretty good hoops, so I actually don't have a problem with doing this. And then we can sign off. What do you think, Ed?
I think that's a great idea.
Beautiful.
RJ. Barrett.
This is actually juicy.
Uh oh.
Silver PSA 10 is sitting at $56. I tell you what, you convince me why I shouldn't buy this at 56 USD. I'm shocked.
Hmm. All right, let's open this up. Let's have a look. I don't want 6 months. I want 2
So last
years.
week I just paid 22 for a silver of PJ Washington. So for an extra 30, I could have got an RJ Barrett. Okay, would you like 2.5 PJ Washingtons or a single RJ Barrett?
I don't know. Oh, it's an interesting one.
This is super juicy, isn't it?
I always like getting 2 of a card as well, though. Like the 2 PJ Washingtons. The value.
I can still keep one after I flip one, right?
That's exactly right. So when they go through the roof, I flip it, make my money back on what I've still got.
You've still got a card, yeah.
Exactly. I know what you mean about not being able to go past the value, especially seeing like historically this has come down and down and down. You think it's hit its sort of trough. So how many games? How prolific does RJ have to be this year?
So okay, I'm going to answer that question with a question. Actually, it's not really a question. So last year, I think he was third on the pecking order. I think ahead of him on the pecking order was Brunson, and their starting power forward that you have some like weird obsession with,
Julius.
Is there any world where he elevates up the pecking order in ahead of Brunson and or in front of Randall? In
the pecking order, does he become the third player to make it a big three? Is probably more relevant.
Interesting.
I don't think he goes up above the pecking order, but he might slot in. He needs to slot in as a third piece.
I actually personally think that as far as a team can be taken, Randall's taken that team. And I think if that team is going to go further, it's the growth from, say, Barrett, I think, is what you're basically
that's where you're getting improvement.
Unless they do something else to the roster.
I don't think you're getting a better Brunson, and I don't think you're getting a better Randall next season.
I think that Brunson pickup was amazing. I think what the Knicks did, that was a really great way to spend their money. But at the same time, I don't really see Brunson as a lead guard. I more see him. Okay, actually, this is the easy way to explain it. I think the role of on Team USA of like leadership, organization, scoring when needed, getting stops when needed, I think that's his role that would be ideal. And I think that Brunson could do that if Barrett picked up his game.
Yes.
And this is very like speculative and all the rest of it, but
that's the fun part though, isn't it?
There's no real reason to think that he's still not going to progress. I think he's got the potential and the talent. Look, my thing with him was like I really felt like he was going to get squeezed out by Randall. That's the truth. But now that Brunson is there, I feel like he's got the basketball intelligence to actually sort that out.
So it's funny. I've said he's got to be the good third string and become to sort of lift.
Yeah.
So he dropped 23 points tonight and was the third man for Canada behind Dylan Brooks.
Don't talk about Dylan Brooks.
And SGA.
Yeah.
Oh, Dylan Brooks. Oh, God. Anyway.
Look, I think that if you're an RJ Barrett fan, I think you'd be enjoying the market at the moment. Like if you can pick up a silver for $50, like that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. You buy that card, you watch him play this season, you're hoping he gets better and it goes up. But that's fun,
He hasn't been around for long, so he might.
What's the worst thing that happens here? It goes down to $40 or $30. You've lost 20.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a huge risk, and he's so young. He is 23 years old.
Anthony, I'm with you, mate. I think if you're all aboard the RJ train, I think that's totally fine. So,
yep.
All right, let's go for an alternative theory now.
Oh.
Do you then start looking at kabooms? So let's go full circle on today's show.
Yep.
His Kaboom last sold for $371, and that's his rookie card. His rookie Kaboom.
Rookie Kaboom. Oh, what's the rookie AD go for? It was like 200 and something, wasn't it? Oh no, it wasn't even a rookie. All right.
No, that's fun. That's getting like super juicy too. And then you've got the PSA potential. So a PSA 10 selling for $1,000.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we talked about this at the beginning of the show. You're right. Like seeing the future price of a Kaboom if a player is
it's tough to compare it to Kobe, but you see like where it's going long term.
Yeah. Anthony's just put in the chat, can't afford any more Kobe's and MJs, so Barrett it is. Oh, I feel you, mate. I feel that. Yep. But you're right. It's an interesting one to think about because it's not like thousands of dollars for a Kaboom. Yeah, I like it.
Great. I think we close the show with that.
Kaboom. Bang.
Yep.
Not with a Ja Morant color blast. Bang bang. God, that was bad. I don't know. I think there's some value to be had at the moment. I think it's interesting. And I know I say interesting a lot, but there are different price points with which to have fun in the hobby at the moment. And yeah.
No, definitely now is the time to be looking at cards on your list. And I think looking at case hits is not a bad way to be focusing your efforts. And
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right. Thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Appreciate the comments in the chat. Hello if we hadn't said hello already. And yeah, that was a good show.
Thanks, Ed.
We'll be back next week.
Great.
See you, everyone.
Bye.